Welcome back to the Luxe Sleep podcast. It is an incredible day today. I'm super excited for our guest and overly excited because today is my birthday, and to have my friend Kimfer here is just going to be next level. So prep yourself. It might be a little longer than usual, but it is going to be a damn good time. So for those of you who have never met Kimfer before, you are in for a treat. Kimfer is a past VP and executive creative director and is now a certified brain-based leadership coach who's very passionate about diversity, equity, inclusion in social justice and social impact along with women in business. It's actually how the two of us met each other 5 years ago with the American Marketing Association. So the two of us didn't like the way things were going in 2020, and we had something to say about it. Since then, Kimfer's been so vocal and incredible. She is the owner of and CEO of the FBomb Breakfast Club. It's a peer support group community for women, femmes, and gentle thems who are company founders and business owners. She's also been an adjunct professor teaching creative and innovation for MBA students, and is the founder of Inclusion Equals, a social enterprise focused on the idea of inclusion equals diversity plus equity and accessibility. She is a global speaker. She has spoken not only locally in her town, but nationally, and has spoken at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So you can catch her sometimes at the World Economic Forum, but today you're catching her speaking here, and she's so incredible, but she's also one of my really good friends. Welcome, Kimfer.
Ooh, happy birthday. I feel like we should have birthday hats and streamers and, all the things today.
Oh my goodness. This is a birthday present in itself. So I'm super stoked. I can't tell you how happy I was that you were able to make it. So we're going to dive right in.
Yeah.
Because we have so much history to talk about together. That also kind of connects with your business, but we're going to take it back into time and just give us a little bit of background on what inspired you to start your brand, and give us a brief Reader's Digest version of your company's history.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So I would say, to talk about it, I might have to go into the way, way back machine. Is that okay?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Go as far back as you want.
We need to go into the way back machine. So one of the things that I've been getting better at sharing about my vulnerability of my history, because that really sets the tone as to why I do what I do now. I am an adoptee from South Korea. I grew up there and eventually ended up in an orphanage. And I was super, super lucky at the age of 10 getting adopted by an American family, Midwestern, like the good Midwestern family, heartland of America in Iowa. I thought, yay, I'm saved, whatever that might mean. And then, so by the way, I'm in my 50s, girl. So for those of you that are listening and have had experience in the 80s and have any historical reference to the farm crisis that happened, are basically all the small farms went into massive, massive bankruptcy and everything. And we don't have to go into politics about why that happened. I might say trickle-down economics era. Anyway, so then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm once again dealing with food insecurity, safety insecurity, home insecurity, all the insecurities, right?
Yeah.
But I made it, went to college. I think at one point I was working 3 jobs, going through the university, overloading my classes. As an artist in the 80s and 90s, the grunge scene, and I thought, oh, Seattle, that's where I want to eventually end up. So I got on my little Ford hatchback with all my art supplies in the back and drove out to Seattle. Yeah. In the mid 90s, which by then, the grunge was kind of overish and missed some of that. But I think what I'm trying to get to is that background of someone who's lived a life where, I was an other for sure. I'm in a small town. There are really no others that look like you. my sister was half American, half Asian, so that at least gave me a little bit of that, but really like an other, like no other. And then having to deal with such an early age of a lot of insecurities, what it meant to be a child, that adults should be really protecting you, then really have a whole lot going on there. And so I would say the areas that I really, really believe in and I'm so passionate about when it comes to social justice and social impact is around youth that are facing barriers. That's a really important aspect for me, as well as I would say, people that have been put into the margins. The
Mhm.
whole idea of marginalized, it's because people have been put into those margins. And so folks in the LGBTQIA community, which I'm also part of course, that's like you tend to hold on to those identities and want to support in areas that you're part of, right? And so, and really of the arts, because I think the arts is such an important aspect of who you are, what you bring. And it's always the artists that I feel like really can help save society and humanity because we bring those forward, right? So that's why my brand Inclusion Equals exists. So that way, really thinking about like, how do I, in the place that I am now, going from someone who had all those intersections that was without, now I have the things. I mean, using the word the
Yeah.
things, you know what I mean? Like I have social capital now. I
Yep.
have financial capital, sustainability. That's not the
Girl,
word I was
words are
trying
a
to use.
thing today.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of that. So it was really important to me when I went through a transformation during my getting my MBA. I was getting my executive MBA. This is when I was the vice president and executive creative director for an agency here in Seattle. We were like the number 2 B2B agency in the nation. I love that job. I love the people, but I thought, what is my impact in the world? Because I went to a university that was a Jesuit university. For me, like I'm not really, I would say Christian religion was not my thing per se, but I love the Jesuit teachings about
Yeah.
same social justice, about being a servant leader. Do you understand your place in the global commons? So all of those things really made me go through a transformation and thought, I want to be in a space where I am more of a servant leader. How can I give back? How do I leave a legacy and an impact that is meaningful? And so that's where the switch happened from being in that, digital marketing space, which was great. But really, does someone else need my help I mean, when I say someone else, I mean, does Microsoft really need my help in that space or Google, Amazon? Because we were working with the big tech companies, you
Mhm.
know? And so that's when I really transitioned out to look at my brand and thought, I was already being seeked out to speak at the agency about creating a culture of inclusivity, what it meant to build creative teams and thinking about uh, diverse ads, inclusive ads, probably a little bit more lip service back then, because was in the early 2010s, I think. And
Yeah.
so we're talking about, a little different, but still kind of in the forefront, I
Yeah.
think. And so that allowed me to think about, we know how brands work because it's not about logos.
No.
I was like, hey, where's my experience and where are my areas? I was an executive who by then,
Mhm.
is finishing out their MBA. I know what it means to be a leader. I know what it means to work with brands. I know what to be creative and what diversity and inclusion meant at that moment. And so I decided to just rotate my expertise and put diversity, equity, and inclusion first by looking at brands and culture, right? So that's how I really thought about my brand. How do I bring my expertise? Especially during that time, a lot of people in DEI were just not just, most of the folks were in HR.
Mhm.
I wasn't in HR. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, what can I bring? a value proposition that was different. So I brought a business strategy perspective back in the days when most people were doing trainings and really learning and development.
And trainings for compliance, not trainings
Yeah.
for communication. And
Yep.
that's the difference between HR and brand. Is
Yep.
brand folks, we are here to communicate.
Yeah.
We're here, whether it's visually, whether it's with written word, whether it's vocally, like this. But HR is built around compliance and rules.
Yep.
And creatives don't really believe in rules.
We're a bit of rule breakers, and then I would say like that's why there was a bit always been a friction between folks in diversity, equity, and inclusion work and people in HR, because like you said, HR there for compliance, and ultimately, yes, it's human resources, but their job is to mitigate, right?
Mhm,
Mitigate any kind of company liability to follow. Versus DEI is to say, let's push and let's
mhm.
change the rules. Let's change the policies for the people. And so that's, I think, a very big difference from traditional HR. I'm not
Yeah,
saying there aren't HR functions now and people in HR that are doing the great work of advocating actually for the employees, not just being administrators for the companies.
yeah. And I mean, and let's be very honest here. You are not your job.
No.
And so, like, there you are a person first, and like, yes, the function of brand, the function of HR, the function of finance, the function is the function.
Yeah.
But like, there are people who are enforcing the function. I don't want to use the word enforce, but it's the first word that popped into my brain. And when we think about that, like in HR, especially in 2020, like when we met each other, their hands were tied in many ways, and
Yeah.
not just tied with a social injustice crisis. They were also tied with a pandemic crisis. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't enough to move the needle forward. And even though
No.
we keep putting it in that box, I firmly believe that it never should have been in that box to begin with.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for
Yeah.
sure. And this is why, because it was always seen as a tack on,
Mhm.
right? It as
Yeah.
an attachment to something. So it was programmatic or a training or whatnot, versus really looking at it as people strategy, business strategy, systems change strategy. And so for me, unfortunately, around that time, so many of my industry colleagues, you know,
Mhm.
really got their businesses cut during the pandemic
Yeah.
because it was not business essential. It wasn't until George Floyd's murder that, oh goodness, now everyone found budget in the middle of the pandemic to
Yep.
bring people forward. I was one of the luckier ones because I was working in systems change with organizations. So my clients doubled down because they're like, okay, now we have to deal with this culture change between being in person to now we have a
Mhm.
hybrid, this thing happening, right? Dispersed workforce. That means also massive culture shift. And then on top of all of that, that how do we policy and procedures go in that still looks at it in with an equitable perspective?
Yep.
And so during that time, for me, my brand was set up really well to respond to it. And then it became even more relevant,
As
George Floyd,
as
So,
and that was actually the catalyst to us becoming friends. If
yes.
we're being 100% honest, everybody,
Yeah, systems
that was
change. Yeah.
that's what happened. Um,
For those of you who are listening and not seeing our faces, you would,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, if,
we're saying a lot without saying a lot.
we are saying a lot without saying a lot, just by our appearances alone. But what you should know is during that time, I had just started my business. I started my business out of necessity for COVID. And when George Floyd was murdered, I we both live in the Pacific Northwest, everyone. And what you should know is most people do not look like the two of us. So I was asked to speak a lot, and
Yeah,
I would get lots of questions. And one of those questions was always, how do you market to Black people? Which is an asinine question.
yeah,
Asinine question. And like sometimes other questions would come up like, do you Do you relate to your white side, or do you just not say anything about it anymore? I'm like, that's a slap in my mommy's face. Like, it's her
Yeah.
birthday. She birthed me. Like, I am mixed. The end. So I'm
It's
not
called
gonna.
intersections, people.
Yeah, it's wild. And I don't know if y'all know this. My son is half Asian. Like, it's you can be with other people. It's so all of these things take place, and we both happen to be a part of the American Marketing Association chapters in different cities.
Yeah.
So we're close to each other. We can drive to each other. We can see each other within a day. We can meet halfway. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the time, the CEO of that organization made a statement about all lives matter. And it threw more than a few of us into a tizzy. Kimfer
Mhm.
being the very, very first person to hold the role of VP of DEI for a chapter. Um, me knowing that a lot of my work was being used. And so a bunch of us across the nation came together. It is one of my greatest accomplishments, even with all the things that came after it that we are not going to discuss today, was a bunch of us came together for a grassroots effort to create the DEI pledge for both the United States as well as some chapters in Canada. It
Yeah.
was a very big thing. We accomplished a lot together, but that's actually how we met each other.
Yeah. And I think, back to this idea of legacy. So the thing that is really, I think people confuse icons with legacy. A lot of icons have a legacy, but a lot of people who have legacies are not icons. There's a bit of a difference.
That's fair.
One of the things, yeah, that for me was really important at my, when I was getting my MBA, right? This university, which was very focused on servant leadership and then also about what is your legacy, right? And legacy was not about, does everyone remember Kimfer? It's about, if Kimfer is no longer there, does the structure still exist?
Yes.
That's legacy. People who might have been part of that circle
Yeah.
might remember me, but it's not about that. Is that, did you do enough to let structures then continue to survive and thrive without you? And for me, there were co-conspirators that came in that made it happen,
We
right?
were good trouble.
Oh yeah, good trouble. And I had the opportunity to also be if you remember, I got hired by the AMA as
Hmm.
well to be the
You.
advisor for their new DEI executive, to be their coach and advisor, and then also to advise the AMA holistically. And as well as while we were on, the committees to make things really make
Things
change
happen.
happen. And so, for me, that is same with you. It's one of my, I think, biggest, as of now, my half century in, um, I would say it's one of the things that I'm most proud of that not very many people know of,
Yeah.
but it exists in a
Still exists.
structured way across the nation, for AMA. It is now a foundational part of the organization that yeah. So
Yeah.
there you have it.
So
That's how we met.
we did that shit.
We did that shit.
No matter what. It didn't
Yeah.
feel like it in the moment, y'all.
Yeah, it's challenging, just
It was
like all
hard.
the things.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
hard.
hard.
A lot of emotions there.
Hmm.
But you know what? It is, to your point, it is a structure that stands today. It
Yeah.
is a structure that stands. It's not one that's going to go away,
No.
regardless of today's political climate.
Yeah.
It's not going away. And if you guys heard anything, before I move to the next question, if you heard anything that Kemper was saying, she didn't use DEI as a term of like, we look different. She used it as it is structural. This is a system. This is a like, I don't even want to say a procedure. It is a system. It's how we integrate. It's how we make everything included. It is not just a tack on. And that's really important to understand the difference, that this has nothing to do with is somebody qualified or not. That has nothing to do with anything. And in a few weeks, you guys are going to hear from Sherry Dunn as she talks about her book, Qualified, and other things. Um, but it's not about qualifications. It's not about any of those things. It's about making it so all of us can show up as our full selves all the time without hiding and feeling as comfortable as me and Kimfer sound on this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
That's how all people
absolutely.
should feel.
Yeah. And here's the thing. by not focusing on it, then you will get the qualified people.
Yeah.
That's how it's like, are you? Yeah,
It's just mind-blowing, the
it is mind blowing.
backwardness of it all.
Yeah.
So, we talked a lot about your intersections, Kimfer. A lot about, the whole idea that you didn't go to school to do this. Like, you were a creative, an artist. You packed up your car, you drove your art supplies to grunge capital of America. And, but what I want to know is, what do you consider the pivotal moment in your brand's journey that really defined where you are right now?
Oh, great question. I would say the pivotal moment, I mean, we already talked about it a lot
Yeah.
because of the fact that I was already a couple of years into my brand,
Yeah.
right? I was already doing inclusion equals work. A couple of years in is when pandemic happened and George Floyd happened. I mean, unfortunately, I think I would hope for most folks that were in DEI at that time, no matter what, that was a pivotal moment,
Hmm.
right? Because one, I mean, holy shit, just the injustice,
That was
period,
wild.
right? And then the global way that it was broadcast because we were stuck
You're
in a
trapped.
pandemic. Because unfortunately, that wasn't the first time.
Yeah.
As much as people like to think Black Black Lives Matter came out at that time, no, it existed
No.
before then, right? And so I think for me, that actually solidified the kind of work I was doing
Yeah.
was and the way that I was doing it was the best approach that needed to be done. Does that make sense? Because I
Makes sense.
wasn't just doing trainings and I would say like tack-ons. I was doing really integrated work.
Integrated,
And
impactful work.
yeah, for sure. And now you see a lot of DEI folks, that's the kind of work they do. Our industry matured.
Yeah.
We were forced to mature very, very quickly. And that curve just went up, right?
Yeah.
So that was a pivotal moment. But I think for me, like for personal pivotal moment that occurred was about 3 years into my business when I said, am I creating a firm, right? Or
Yeah.
am I the brand that, what is that? Because that is a thing that you can happen when you're building a business, especially if you have a
Yeah.
consulting business, which is what I had. I was providing a service.
Yep.
I'm not, my products are my service, right?
Hmm.
Rather than physical products and things like that. So for me, because of the demand, I uh, at that time, when there were additional demands, I would partner with others, like partner with other DEI consultants coming to do the work so that it can, spread the work. But I had this moment, like, because it's such a capitalist thing for everyone to think about. You must grow, right? You've got work coming in, you got to grow, you got to get bigger, you got to scale. And I really went through the deep process to
Yeah.
go, you know what? I don't want to in that
In that way.
space, in that way, because what I really loved was doing the work with the clients, doing deep dives with the clients. And I knew because I worked at an
Yeah.
agency, right?
Hmm.
I was an executive at an agency. My title couldn't go any higher unless the partners were deciding to like open up their partnerships,
Yeah.
which was not going to be a thing. And so I knew what it was to do less of my job, but more of when I say the job, I mean less of the hands-on job with
Yeah.
clients and more of like, how do we grow? How do we scale? How do we look at our margins and all of that?
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know if I want to think about like, do I want to go deep? Or
Hmm.
do I want to go wide? How do I go wide with my impact, but really deep with my impact
Yeah.
as well? And so to go wide, I'm like, oh, I need to scale.
Yeah.
But to go deep, I'm okay working with a few clients at a time. And so that's a brand, I think, a moment that people who own their own business will need to think through. Are you building a company or are you building a brand that is you plus, and how do you then evolve.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was the moment when I decided, partly because that was also when I was going through my coaching certification
Yeah.
and also being coached, right? And literally every one of the business coaches were like, every time you talk about building a firm,
Yeah.
an agency, your energy just drops. And
Drops.
you just like your stress level goes up and your energy drops.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, that probably says a lot. Because all I could think about was like, okay, now I have to focus on sales, which I do
Mhm.
not love, honestly. Because I just don't. Like,
It
I
it
love
it should be
relationships and
effortless.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know sales isn't all about like just pitching and pitching, because sales happen because of relationships. You are trying to solve something for someone, but when you have other people's lives in your, like their salary and all of that, I'm like, I mean, I know I was going to get further and further away from the work that I do with clients and more into the business
Yeah.
dive, right? And
The number.
so I, yeah, and I decided this is how I'm going to go wide with the impact and deep with my impact. Is wide is where all my speaking comes
Okay.
in. That's where my speaking really started
Yeah.
picking up. So now I can do like speaking is where I get a chance to like sort of do a spread. We
Yeah.
might not go deep, but there will be a wider, I guess, um, visibility, wider way of sharing that where people can dig
Yeah.
in, right? So it's like that. While I then continue to do deep work with my clients, and then also remembering there's more than one pie and a pie slice. Like I can continue to partner with others and bring on other consultants and go partner together.
Yeah.
And then also, then what happened was for me, because I do a lot of strategy around vendor management for clients as well. Because if you're looking at a business strategy
Yeah.
around DEI, it's in all facets.
Everything the sun touches. I feel like there's a
Yeah,
lot of that.
right. Right. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, so that was similar to me is like, I'm okay. I still can't do it alone. So rather than, so I'm thinking of it as like I hired on a bookkeeper, right?
Yeah.
Well, and a, a woman. I
Okay.
have a marketing team that I work with, women owned agency who hires mostly
Yeah.
BIPOC women and who works with a lot of BIPOC. Hired a PR agency for a while, also in impact space, women of color, etc. So I look at it as how I build my brand with extended team members and doing it that way rather than hiring in a team to build a firm, but rather what can I do with myself in a really in-depth way, one-on-one with my
Continued
clients,
way.
and then do a broad stroke with my speaking.
That's incredible. And it's good that you could reflect and realize that. That level of self-reflection is incredible. And not a lot of people hold that level of self-reflection because I feel like if you've been listening to this podcast from like start to now, I have like some serious beef with bro marketing tactics. And I never dive into it too much, but just know like I'm not about that life. I can't handle it. Um, I don't think it's natural to all of us to constantly feel like we have to cold DM, cold email. I'm sure it works. Each to their own. Somebody's going to be on this podcast who talks about it. Not here to like shit in their Wheaties or whatever, but it's not for everyone.
No.
It's just simply not for everyone. And so, like you, I prefer to speak. I prefer to be out there and sharing knowledge. All of my freebies are because I kept getting asked the same question and I was tired of repeating myself. So I like created them to answer questions. And
Yeah.
it's from a place of how do I share and give back? And yes, I do outreach. Like I'm not immune to it. I do it. But it's always in a way that makes me feel like me. And I think if
Yeah.
anything goes against you, if it makes your blood pressure rise, like Kimfer was just talking about, and like it makes your energy look like a black hole, don't do it.
Yeah. You know who I think you should definitely speak with? Her name
Yeah.
is Jada, like Prada. That's how I remember is how she reminds you how to say her name. She really wrote this wonderful book
Yeah.
that really talks about that, like this idea of like what is there was an insert in her book that when she was here speaking and doing her book tour
Yeah.
about how there was a story about a woman who had a I think a yoga company, right? She had a
Oh,
yoga studio and lived by water, and she got to take her kids to school, had be able to have lunch with her friends, and someone from the city came for vacation and was a marketing person and said, "Hey, this is amazing. If you just expand, you could do this and this, and then, kind of map their life. And if in 5 years or whatever it was, right, then
yeah.
you can scale, you can have more studios, you can go to this city and that city, then you can write a book and you can tour and you can da. You put all this hard work in, and then, you can now be
Yeah.
successful. And then she said, then what would I do with my time? And she said, well, then you can retire and work when you want to,
She's like, but I work when I
spend
want
time
to.
with your kids, be at the beach, and you have time with your friends. She's like, I already have that balance.
Yeah.
So more isn't always about more. More is like what is that
Good for
balance for
you.
you? And so that story really held in my brain. But anyway, yeah, I
No,
think you should really talk to her. She's lovely.
oh my gosh, no, make the intro. See everybody, this is why I podcast, because I'm just like, who do you know? Let's talk about cool
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
We need
And
more cool people.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so that's, I think, for me, making that decision created a lot of
Mhm.
clarity what it is that I want to do with my inclusion equals business. Here's another thing though. Then I had this weird opportunity
Uh-oh.
to purchase the FBomb Breakfast Club.
And you did.
And I did. People were like, don't you already have so much going on? I said, yes. And I love this community. FBomb Breakfast Club was founded by an amazing woman named Megan McNally, who I also consider as a mentor. She did mentor me around how to being an angel investor and all of that. And I
Wow.
was an FBomb
Remember?
member for a long time. This is the ninth year, technically. I bought it in the start of the eighth year.
Okay.
Okay. So she owned it for 7 years.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Yeah. And in that time, I think I was a member at least 5 or 6 years. And, went through all the changes during the pandemic because things changed, right?
Right.
And so when it became an opportunity, because she really wanted to focus on the FBomb Angels, that's
Yeah.
women investing in women's business. Love that because she believes the
Yeah.
money's in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she started it. And so then I was like, because she put FBomb on a hold for about 6 to 8 months,
Yeah.
in the middle of the pandemic. And those of us that were avid
Mm-hmm.
farmers were like, we miss it. We want it back.
Bring it
And
back.
we want it back. And so when she was deciding like that what she do with it again, I was like, oh my gosh, don't get rid of it. And it just ended up just being a conversation. And she had a few others that were interested, and she's like, yeah, but if someone like you, Kimfer, who's been part of it, and I'm,
Yeah.
part of the moderators and all that stuff, she's like, I was like, huh, could I? Should I? Is this a thing? And talked to my partner, and he's like, yeah, why
Wow.
not? It's aligned to what you do. It's a community that you believe in, and so I decided to buy a business.
It's amazing.
So inclusion equals purchased FBomb Breakfast Club,
Nice.
and all of last year talking about brand, because this is what we're talking
Yeah.
about. This is a brand podcast, obviously. I decided to treat it as if it's a brand new business, as
Oh,
if it's a startup,
okay.
and basically wound down the
Yeah.
things that were going on. We cut off everyone's membership fee, so no one was paying, and decided to go through the full thing.
Full
Like, I
rebrand.
hired a brand company, and I don't mean, again, local brand company that does research
Strategy.
strategy. Yeah.
Mm.
So the first quarter of last year was listening to the existing members doing
Mhm.
transitions, right? A
Yeah.
lot of data, right? Learned
Mhm.
a lot of information, what they want, what they're looking
Mhm.
for, what is the makeup of this community. And then Q2 was that brand team going and
Mhm.
doing external research and interviews, as well as some additional internally, doing some competitive analysis,
Mhm.
what people, women in business look for. And then Q3 is when we did the visual brand. We
Thank
did a
you.
brand refresh, visual refresh, um, and as well as really looking at our content.
Yeah.
And Q4 was when we were testing out some of our theories in what they want. So it's been all about co-creating with the
Oh,
community and what they want, and testing it out all of end of Q4 and also in Q1, as well as we launched a event down in Portland called Boulder Summit, and we will officially, really nationwide, open up in April Q2. So very specifically, again, brand is not just you have to have strategy around your
yeah.
brand, right? What was different from what Megan used to do, which also significantly changed for her because of she had a pre-pandemic and then pandemic happened and all of that.
It's
What
different.
is Yeah, and also events are different. It has fundamentally changed because of COVID and how people do that, right? And we're not just a networking group, right? Because that's about like, hey, let's switch, trade
Here's my
business
business
cards.
card.
Yeah, right. Versus we're a peer-to-peer support community. So Megan talks about how there's money in the room for FBomb Angels. I like to call it there's knowledge in the room,
Yes.
right? The knowledge is in the room because of all the women who own their own businesses in various different industries and expertise. And so we are there to be with each other as if we are your team, extended team.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. And when all of you hear this, because we're definitely not actually recording on my birthday, fun like behind the scenes fact. This will come out on my birthday, which is in April, which
Yeah.
means this will have most likely about to go live or is going live at the same time. So there's a lot to celebrate once everybody sees this in real life. Like there's so much to celebrate.
Right?
And I feel some type of wonderful way knowing that FBomb is coming out around my birthday because it's a damn good month to
Right?
it up.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real here.
I
Also,
know.
note to self: this one has to be marked as explicit. All right. Anyway, so Kimfer, as we look at that, we look at FBomb and we look at where inclusion equals is going, and we start to look out to the future. Um, what are the long term goals for expanding your brand's impact?
Yeah, for me, again, impact is we have to define what that impact is for our brand,
Yeah.
right? I talked about with inclusion equals, I'm looking for deep impact, which means it's not about the numbers game with how many clients I can have, but rather, am I creating that deep change within either the organizations or during my coaching
Mhm.
with my clients? As for FBomb, that's another story. That one we're looking to scale because what we want to do is really think about there's so many women business owners, women, them, gentle them is what we talk about, is that we feel alone in
Oh
what we
yeah.
do, right? And so how do we really tackle this, like I said, and know that you have team members, which are fellow entrepreneurs and business owners, to be there. So the larger that can be, the less people are going to feel lonely and hopefully find their squads
Yeah.
amongst this larger breathing, living organism that hopefully will become F-bomb. So that one I think excites me when I think about that one scaling in the way because I'm there to help people connect
Yes.
and be with each other. Um, and I think that impact, that's what I'm looking for in that impact, right?
Yeah.
Again, back to legacy. It's not about like, can Kimfer control this thing? No, part of our thing is how our members we want to make sure that our members can do and have ownership within this framework. And so that way it's not just dictated by someone, it's like, this
Just
is how it's
one
done.
individual.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
been co-created. So,
I mean, and I'm firmly behind that because I truly believe that if more women had economic power, wow, words today.
mhm.
If more women had economic power, like all of us who are listening to this podcast or considering starting a business, or the wonderful guests that I have on this show who do have their own business, like we as a unit, if we all came together, if we all knew each other existed and in that space, the world would be a happier place. I really believe that the world would be a better place if women held more share of the economic power. I have a girlfriend, and hopefully the numbers have changed, but she has this business that's basically called like F the 4%, because she feels that more women should be millionaires, billionaires than there
Mhm.
actually is. And let alone of that 4%, an even smaller percentage are women of color. And like, we got to knock it off. I'm actually reading this book called We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. Like, it was,
Yeah.
yes, free promotion, Rachel. You should be my friend. But here nor there. Um, like, it was a really, really great story of understanding and why her mission is to ensure more women have money at the table, not just a seat at the table.
Oh
Because
yeah.
sometimes we get a seat at the table and we're still told to be quiet and be pretty in a corner. No, it is about money at the table and the ability to, your friend's point, like the money's in the room, the knowledge is in the room. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
there's way more knowledge in our rooms.
So here's just so folks that are listening, because since FBomb is one of my businesses, so I have to know these stats, right? So women-owned businesses have $2.7 trillion in revenue in the US. Okay, that's how much they generate.
Yeah.
Okay. And women-owned businesses also tend to reinvest back into the community
Yes, they
much at
do.
a higher rate. And women-owned businesses employ over 12 million people. And women-owned businesses power nearly 40% of business. And so so it's not tiny.
No,
It's just that we tend to do it in smaller scales. But if we can put that kind of power together, think about what kind of access we would have.
and maybe smaller scales, but a hell of a lot larger impact.
Oh yeah. And also from a brand perspective, right? Women globally, I think we control about 80% of buying power.
Oh, yes, we do.
Hmm. So there's that. For any number nerds out there.
I
So
love
a
numbers. I
few
can geek out about
stats there
that.
for you.
But it is true. And gosh, it's the reason I started this podcast. It's the reason that you own FBomb now. It's more than just our time. We deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We deserve it. It's not about it being our time anymore. It's not about, I don't want to see another glass ceiling, but I'm here to break them all, shatter them all. I don't want to know they exist. I want them to literally all the glass to crack underneath my red
Mm,
bottoms. I don't care.
yeah.
But we deserve this.
Yeah.
And hell, we birthed the population, so you're welcome.
You're welcome. Yeah.
You're
We
all
we do it.
welcome. We
Hmm.
did that. Or our moms did that, or our aunties did that, or our cousins did that. We did that.
Hmm.
And now we just need to own it fully.
Yeah. Yep. I'm all about, yeah, let's break the glass ceiling. I mean, even back in the day, like it being an executive creative director, during the time, do you remember Kate, is it Katie? Kate. Oh shoot. Of course, now I can't remember.
Okay.
She started that 3% conference that turned into a movement. And I was like, wow, I'm one of the 3% women at the time that were creative directors in ad agencies and agencies that really 3%. It was
3%.
back in the day. It's up to I think 30 some percent now because
I think it's a lot higher. I
yeah.
feel like,
And well, that has a lot to do with Kate Gordon. That's it.
yeah,
Sorry, it took me a moment. She literally that movement. I mean, they put force behind and put a lot of stress behind organizations and structures and systems. That's how they made
Yeah.
those changes happen, right? So, yeah.
And it comes from us speaking up. Like,
Mhm.
all the things we talked about today. A lot of this happened because somebody spoke up and didn't just speak up, put a structure behind it.
Yeah.
When there's a structure behind loud voices, change happens. It can't not happen.
Yeah.
So it's really important that as women we not only come together and give voice to things, but give structure to those things in order to be the force that we are.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. I could go on forever. All right, I've got
You
two
know,
last
you and I
questions
could
for
just
you.
talk forever.
We
So,
probably could. Be like, this is part one. We're gonna end up with like Kimfer's on every season. It's fine. What is on
me
their plate
too.
today? Um, last two questions that I ask everybody.
Sure.
And that first question is, what does a day of living a luxurious life look like to you?
Day of living a luxurious life.
A luxurious
A
one.
luxury. I would say, well, no work.
You're the first person to say that, and I'm kind of happy about it. Keep going.
Yeah, no work. I mean, it's luxury. I mean, honestly, to have a job is a luxury. So
Yes, it
let's
is.
put that out there. However, if I'm thinking about luxury, um, honestly, for me, it's not about necessarily like being on a yacht on an ocean and,
Doesn't sound bad though.
that like, although that sounds lovely, um, luxurious day for me or week or whatever would be like, I have all the choices I want with all the time that I want for the things that I just want to do. That's
Yeah.
it. That's luxury to me. I think this is maybe it's a 50-year-old luxury. I don't know, but like maybe it is like I want to be on a yacht in on an ocean, but really like for me luxury is making my own decisions with my own time and there's no dollars associated with it. And I would wish that on everyone. What a luxury to live in a world like that, right?
It would be so wonderful.
Right?
It'd be
Like
so
just
wonderful.
like actually
Choice.
do what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
There's no monetary like confinement and just joy. Oh, just joy for people
Right.
and not hardship.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Which is a great next question.
Oh, okay.
Last one, best one.
All right.
In one word,
Ooh,
what is your primary motivation for business?
impact. That's an
She's
easy
like,
one.
no brainer, it's impact, y'all. You
Impact.
didn't
I've
pick up
already
on
talked
it.
about it like over and over. That's why it changed, literally changed my business from being, an executive to like
I love
going on
it.
my own impact. Yeah.
She's like, I don't even have to think. It's,
Yeah.
it's one word. I hope
One
y'all picked
word
up
you
on
told
it.
me. Yeah. I'm like, I think people have heard it like a bazillion times already during this episode.
I think it would be really funny if you said something else. I bet everybody's like driving in their car or something, and they're like, "Well, she didn't say impact." I'd be a little like weirded out. So
Do it for fame.
all the
That's
fame.
who does DI work for fame? I don't think anyone. That's
Really
not.
not. Like that was actually one of the number one reasons why I didn't become like a famous actress. There was like, and in Broadway was because there was nobody who looked like me.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Nowadays,
I
so
had done it.
different.
I would have been in Hamilton.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, also, I saw a beautiful production of Chicago and New York last year with, oh, I'm so bad with names.
Hmm.
Beautiful black trans woman, right?
Ooh.
Oh,
Um.
yeah.
Also on Silver Screen, does she do TV shows too?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it Laverne
Um,
Cox?
no,
Mm,
no, someone else.
because Laverne can sing.
Yes. Yes. Anyway,
Okay,
and
we'll
and
look it
then
up.
also like, and Juliet also saw in New York.
Oh my god,
Oh,
I'm
so
going to
good.
make.
I think they're traveling this year.
Are they traveling this
Yeah,
year?
they're definitely coming to Seattle. I don't know how that works
We
in
get a lot of
Portland.
Broadway shows because I'm
Oh,
really looking
you
forward to
should
the
go
Michael
see
Jackson one in
and
July.
Juliet because
Okay.
I had never heard of this term music. What is it called? A jukebox jukebox musical.
Oh, I've never heard that term.
Yeah, my
Oh,
son taught that to me. I was like, what? He's like, it's the when the oh bless
thank
you.
thank
It's
you.
when they do musicals and they use popular songs.
Oh,
Yeah. And so there's gonna be some Britney Spears in there. It's like all the music from the 80s and 90s, like pop,
pop,
early 2000s
like
pop.
bubblegum pop era
Yeah, yeah.
and
Well,
80s. I feel like bubblegum is like late 90s, early 2000s.
well, that has a different connotation when you're older because there was bubblegum in the 50s. So there's that.
Well, you know,
Yeah, no. But anyway, but it's amazing. And also the cast is so diverse. It's phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Hmm.
See? And I mean, and you wanna know what made me wanna do this? This is so funny, like, here we are supposed to wrap it up, but you guys are all gonna learn about how I really wanted to sing on Broadway for, like, 2 seconds. It's my birthday, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Um, it was Brandy being Cinderella on the Disney Channel, and I still to
Yeah.
this day love that musical. I love it to death. I don't even like Cinderella as a fairy tale at all, or princess,
No, but that was such a
but
pivotal
that was
moment
such a
for
big
people.
thing to see Whitney Houston and Brandy, and,
It was on also on national
it
TV.
was. It was on when ABC did Disney movies
Yes. There's
at like
Sunday night
7 o'clock
movies
at
or
night.
whatever it
Yeah,
was. Yeah.
Sunday. And I was a little girl, and, then I went into high school, and I got voted most likely to be famous, and, I own a brand agency, so here we are. I
You
still
make other
dance
people
and still
famous.
sing, it's fine. Exactly. So, uh, Kimfer, thank you. Thank
Oh
you
my
for sharing
gosh.
this day with me. This was
Thank you
way too much
for
fun.
yeah, thank you for inviting me to be on
Oh,
your birthday
thank
podcast and
you.
also technically the official launch of FBomb
Of
too. So look
FBomb.
at us.
What
Boom.
perfect timing.
Timing is amazing.
Oh my goodness, I love it. We're so grateful to have you. Everyone who like spent this time listening to us. I know it was a longer episode. We're so grateful to the time you shared with us. It was incredible. I hope you learned lots. And if you're a woman listening to this, own a business, and you think FBomb is the place where you need to be, you just we'll put it in the show notes. You got to join. Absolutely incredible women. And I'm really proud to say it comes from the Pacific Northwest. So,
Yeah.
alrighty. We'll see y'all soon. Bye bye.
Bye.